that's using the floor tom in both of the bass drums is one where the floor tom is playing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and the bass drums are playing 1 triplet, 1 triplet and triplet, 2 triplet and triplet, right and left and real slow. That's 3, 4. And what I do is I add the left hand in on to create sort of a halftime snare backbeat feel. That sounds like this.
The last little bit was actually almost using it like congas. I'm trying to intimate more than I'm actually playing. I try to use a lot of pedal tones, stay on the same note. If I'm playing through a series of complex chords, maybe I'll hit 2 or 3 notes that will work really all the way through the chords. For example, if I'm going, let's say, A to C to D. Let's just try something. I'll stay on the same notes. Watch. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now C. So you see, you can really make a lot more of a part just by allowing holes for the listener to imagine their own pieces of melody and pieces of rhythm.
I'd like to demonstrate a lot of different kinds of ethnic rhythms. I think a good place to start would be from Brazil, thinking into what I started this section playing was just a little personal version of samba. The floor tom was acting like the surdo. The surdo is the Brazilian bass drum, and it's played like this. And more when I play samba, I enjoy using the floor tom-tom in that kind of manner. 1, 2, let's go on. Now the bass drum is playing on beats 1 and 2, and I'm accenting a little bit on beat 2.
Now we're going to explore the possibilities of playing with the 3 fingers, individual fingers from each hand, namely finger number 3, number 2, and number 1. Now the first pattern we can do is to play a pattern of 4, playing one of the fingers from one hand and then the 3 fingers in succession from the other hand, like this.
Now, I thought it might be interesting to put up a sound here on the synth. And at first we're going to sing a melody over this. We'll have a little beat from the drum machine. We'll sing a melody. We'll get a basic melodic idea, because after all, improvising
is a little bit like composing. You'll start with a little theme and then we'll expand on it till you get rolling, and then you can just feel free and play. So the way to develop this, obviously, is to begin with small statements, just like a sentence. It's made up of some words at the beginning, and then you elaborate as you go. So the first thing I'll do is I'll sound the C major 7th chord with a 9th, and we'll play a little, we'll play the scale over it, we'll play the arpeggio, we'll sing these things over the sound briefly, and then we'll go on and improvise. I'll start with a little motif. Also, I might add that you can, over this sound that we're going to play, you can play the pentatonic scale, the major pentatonic, which is 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 octave. Okay? It sounds like this. Okay? So, let's sound the chord now. Put a little rhythm. We'll just briefly sing the scale. La da 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 da. Right? The arpeggio. La da 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 da. Now the arpeggio. Okay. Now let's sing a melody. Doesn't have to be an elaborate one, just a simple one to start with. La da 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 da. We'll expand a little bit.
When playing the shuffle feel, I keep time by playing quarter notes on my hi-hat. By transferring these quarter notes over to my second bass drum, I can form a double bass shuffle. My main bass drum is now playing the last note of each triplet. By transferring the quarter notes from my hi-hat to my second bass drum, I'll complete the shuffle.
that was the first basic lick that we came up with, and then I wanted a piece of it to sort of finish out the phrase, and I added these 3 bars at the end. So I'm going to play the last phrase and then the 3 bars that got added. 4, 2, 3, 4. Here's the last phrase. And then into a little vamp that I found. Let me shut this robot off here. Then into this vamp. And figured that that could be the first solo and the keyboard solo. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's make a loop. After the 3 bars, Tommy, da 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 da, and then go back. So it's a 5-bar loop.
Okay.
Got it? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. That feels good now.
Well, that's how it was. The first part was like on the rim.
This hammer on is kind of daring because now the left hand is doing all the work and the right hand gets a little bit of a break. The left hand is hammering the arpeggio out, basically. And the index finger here is tapping the high note. In this case, it's an A. This is an A major. An A major little hammer on here. Make it minor, we flat the 3rd tone. Major. might remember this little hammer-on in the song Division. Now I'd like to do something that I did on the Tony McAlpine Maximum Security album. It was on the ending of King's Cup, and what it was kind of a six-figure lick, which was 4 on the hands, 2 on the feet. So you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6 on the bass drums, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the bass drums. Only you're alternating your right hand from the snare drum to the floor tom and back. So you're going, well, I'll show you. What do you say? I'll do it slow, and then I'll do it fast. Watch. That was the lick, a little slower. Now I'm going to do it a little faster, but what I did on the album was I did a lot of variations on that lick. So you can experiment and try it at home, do different variations with either the floor tom or the high tom or even the snare drum and the high toms, whatever you want to do. I'll do it the way I did it on the record. First I'm going to do it the way I just showed you, at a faster pace, and then I'll do it the way I did it on the record. So you'll be able to tell the difference. Let's check it out.
First thing you should know is how to find them. If you've never played harmonics before, you should just rest your finger on the 12th fret, and then 12th fret A string, and then pick the note. And that's what a harmonic is. You can hear all the different harmonic points on the neck if you just rest your finger on the A string, and then pick the A string, and move your finger down the string. All those overtones are called harmonics. Now what I do is I whack them out at all the points where they sound. And basically it's over the frets where the position markers are. Like 12th fret. And then I give it a little whammy. But the only way you can do it is if you mute all the other strings.
Right.
With your forefinger and your thumb.
Okay.
And you can pick them as well. The really interesting thing is between the 2nd fret and the 3rd fret, there are 3 harmonic notes.
Okay.
You can get them by hitting over the 3rd fret, or between the 2nd and 3rd, and over the 2nd fret.
So you have to kind of search for that sweet spot in there.
Basically, I was showing you the beginning of a solo. I tell you, it's a good way to start, is building whatever solo you're going to do on a motif. No matter what it is. If you're in that figure, it could have been, I mean, that could be a start. But at the end of the phrase, I'm doing a little da-da-da-da-da-da, and then it could just just sit there for again. I don't need to play because the rhythm's playing. Now, what if we break it up and decide when we go to B, rather than doing something melodic, let's do something rhythmic. Something like that, or just one of those.
These are different percussion instruments that I use for effects, or for grooves, or for different colors in music. For example, this is a rain stick made in Mexico. This is a talking drum from Africa.
The melody and now, ladies and gentlemen, sounds like this. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba-ba-dee-da. Well, first of all, let me give you the tempo so you'll be with me. The tempo is right about in here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba-ba-dee-da, ba-dee-da, ba-dee-da, ba-ba-da-da-da-da, ba-do-da-do-da, ba-da-da-da-da, ba-da-dum. Now, what I did, I'm going to play and show you what I did to that melody. Here's what I did. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Da-da-da-da-da. When it came time for me to play a solo, I based my solo on that particular tune, because I know the changes to the tune, I know how many bars there is to a chorus, so I sort of like sing the melody along to what I'm playing rhythmically. Now that tempo was something like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Let's start with an exercise called the spider. This is an exercise derived from a guitar exercise that my brother showed me. It starts out on the D string with G, the first finger, and a parallel fifth with the third finger, D on the G string. Now another parallel fifth, second finger on A flat on the D string to fourth finger on E flat on the G string. So the first half of the exercise goes like this. Now the second half of the exercise is minor thirds. Starts with third finger on A on the D string, first finger on C on the G string, fourth finger on B flat on the D string, second finger on D flat on the G string. Slowly at first, in order to make this exercise the most helpful. Each note should sustain into the next. I want you to practice that very slowly and gradually work your way up on the metronome or the drum machine until you can play it rapidly.
We'll look at the left hand and then I'll show you the right hand, okay? So here we go. This will also demonstrate the odd and even principle, which is odd numbers of notes on a string until you need to change direction, then we'll use an even number of notes to turn the shape around. Okay, so here we go. I'll count you off. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 notes, 3 notes, 3 notes, 3 notes, 3 notes, 2 to turn around, 3, 3, 3, 3, and then 4 on the last string. Okay, so that's the left hand. Now let's take a look at what the right hand's doing, because this is a very important shape and you'll be using this for every scale in every position. So let's look at the right hand now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Down, up, down, 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 down, up, up, down, up, up, down, up, up, down, up, up, down, up,
And for me, the easiest way to do it was just to come up with a sticking, and again, Gary helped me here, was to come up with a sticking that was just a 5-note sticking, which for me was right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, left, left. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So the more I did that, I started to be able to hear it in my head. So I didn't necessarily always have to count the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5s. Then the next step was just to count straight 4 through the middle of it, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. So that way I always know where I am. Even I can hear the 5s going by, but I know where the beat is. I know which part of the measure I'm at. And it gives me the freedom then to be able to use them, to not be locked into starting the beginning of the measure, ending at the end of the measure, because I've done it enough times so I can hear it without counting it. Then I can move beyond just playing it like that. I can start to be creative and to interpret the 5s in different ways.
Different ways of doing scales. For instance, if you just go. I came all the way from that low C. We're in the key of C. There's a low C, there's a high G. Okay, now this is all without moving my hand once. You see what I'm saying? And it's all right there. You know what I'm saying?
All in one position.
Okay, then there's other ways. See, because most bass players, for instance, this is something that I've been doing the last few years. See, you know, taking like, going up to the third, then you got, you know, fourth and the sixth. You know, then major seventh, then you'd be the ninth. By that time, you'd be up to the 12th already. You know what I mean? It's like, that's very convenient as opposed to, you know, the way you usually would learn. I mean, that's how most people probably originally learned with it.
That's a smooth approach.
Well, that's normal because that's the way from up here, like you were saying.
The conventional pattern, good for all tempos. Now let's have a closer look at the left hand. Starting near the top of the drum, moving in a clockwise motion, your brush should be touching the head at all times. To add a heavier accented pulse, press more of the body onto the head at the beginning of the beat. Then relax as you round the bottom of the drum. This stroke is one of the most integral, therefore it is important to practice until it is smooth before adding an accompanying stroke. Each circle should equal quarter notes or half notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
now when I explained polyrhythmic style to a man on the moon, the poly of that word means many, and rhythm, of course, so it just means many rhythms, and so that's exactly what it is. They're coordinated rhythms.
Subject of thinking like a drummer, drummers do exercises known as rudiments. The most basic is a paradiddle, and it's called paradiddle because it sounds like paradiddle, paradiddle, 1 2 1 1 1 2 1 1. Apply that to the bass, and it becomes like this. One and 1 1 2 and 1 you know. So that depending on what you want to express at that moment, you can use different approaches to the same concept of playing paradiddles with your instrument, you know. So there's many, many different colors that can be used depending on how you use your hands and your fingers.
Interestingly, when I have to play fast, I try to think slow. In other words, I'm not counting to myself 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. I want to try to see the forest for the trees, get the big picture. So I feel the music with different layers or levels of time. In other words, if we have a tempo 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4, I might be counting it 1 2 3 4 1 2 3, or even larger and slower counts 1 2. So I can breathe more. I'm not thinking in such small crowded units. The phrasing of the ride cymbal changes a little bit. We have less room in the bar to really open up those swung eighth notes for triplets, so they become slightly straighter. I will start with a medium tempo and gradually increase the speed up to a fairly fast tempo.
As I mentioned earlier, a rhythm played on the congas is called tombao. The best known tombao is tombao moderno. When we play the tombao, our left hand is our timekeeper, and a heavy and a strong left hand is extremely important. Come down flat, relax. As soon as you hit the head, your hand is tipped backwards, but remain on the head with the heel of your hand. Next stroke, back again. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. In faster tempi, we'll only hit with the palm of the hand or with the heel of the hand, depending on the tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The right hand plays 1 and 2, a slap and 2, 3 and 4, 2 open strokes. So the basic technique will be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, the first stroke is doom, and doom is done with the fourth finger of the right hand. And just like on the bodhran, we're trying to get a low, open sound. The next stroke we have is called tak, and tak is done with the fourth finger again on the rim. Now you can see the pivot motion happening on doom and on tak.
way we practice being creative with a beat is we start by concentrating on just the hi-hat. Keep the snare drum and the bass drum solid and try different ideas on the hi-hat. For example,
Now we're ready for our first actual drum set rhythm. It has 4 sounds. Poon, pick, pack, pick. Goes like this. Poon, pick, pack, pick. Poon, pick, pack, pick. Poon, pick, pack, pick. Poon, pick, pack, pick. Should practice this rhythm until it's smooth and steady. Okay, now you're the drummer. Let's use this first beat that you've just learned. Play along with song number 1. Slow rock and roll. Here we go.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Flam accent is phrased as triplets. It utilizes 2 alternating taps after the flam. Phrased as a triplet. Fla-fla is a French rudiment, which utilizes the double flam technique.
It might be fun to look at a practice technique that I use sometimes, and it kind of gets me real separate from my hands, because what we do, you remember we talked about a flow, establishing a flow. Well, the idea of this is to keep a regular flow of quavers, notes going, kind of without interruption, and just move around the piano, but weave the line with 2 hands rather than play a line with 1 hand. You use 2 hands. And you can get into the idea of thinking of, you got these 10 guys here, each one kind of like a drummer. And do his thing. Like you have these 2 drummers do this, and you have these 3 drummers do this, and you get like a 5, say 5. And then you can change from 5 to 4. And you get these guys coordinated.
This is a King Crimson song called Heartbeat. With this altered tuning, I changed the high E string down to a C. So the top two strings of the guitar are now half a step apart.
Now another very interesting thing you can do with all these scales is you can harmonize just the scale itself. Say I have 4 measures of C major 7, right? What do I do besides, which gets to be a little boring, is I can actually harmonize the scale in fourths. Below there's some notes there. That's the C Lydian scale harmonized, in this case, in fourths, which gives you this. So I'm playing along in C major 7. I want to get some interesting tensions. I go.
One of my favorite techniques is using ghost strokes. Now, a ghost stroke is basically a very quiet tapping of the snare drum, like this. And believe it or not, this tiny tap can work wonders on all kinds of beats and fills. Let's start with a basic rock beat, but instead of using both hands to play the hi-hat and snare, do it all with one hand. If you're a right-handed drummer who plays in the conventional manner, do this all with your right hand or your writing hand. I'm a left-handed person, I play backwards, I'm crazy, don't let me confuse you. Use your writing hand, like this. Now what that does is free up the snare hand, okay? If you're right-handed, it means your left hand. And now we're going to fill in the holes, all the 16th notes, really quietly, using ghost strokes with that hand. And that sounds like this, just the hands, very slowly. 3E and a 4E and a 1. 1, 3, 4, 1. Now let's add the bass drum. 2, 3, 4. Now once you get this down, then you ought to try some different 8th note patterns on the bass drum, and then expand to some heavy 16th note patterns.
So what I'm going to give you is a very difficult exercise. The first part of it is a triplet exercise. And there's 10 little sub exercises that go into this before you can actually get going with it. They're basically all hand and foot combination things. And the first one is probably one that we've all been doing all our lives. Okay, so the first triplet exercise is right, left, foot. The idea is to go all over the drum kit using all the cymbals, everything you've got that you can hit, and playing with dynamics, trying to get a nice flow between all the drums. All right, so like this, start slow and just work your speed up. All right, the second exercise is left-right foot. All right, number 3, start with the foot. Foot, right, left.
Rhythm and blues was, at the time, it was called, I called it boogie woogie. That's what was out when I was coming out. I played boogie woogie since I could crawl up on the piano. But you know, even though I was playing classical music, I still loved my boogie woogie. Later on, it became R&B.
triplets, accenting the first note of each eighth note triplet. Say I'm not aware of how all this works, how this machine works, and I'll try to do it like this. Not a very smooth triplet. So I say, well, what about playing it all from here? Just as bad. But what if I apply the natural motion that occurs in the arm, the wrist, and the fingers when I make a larger stroke followed by two smaller strokes? Noticed how the arm motion changed according to the accent pattern I wanted to play.
That's a little better. We're getting there. Now suppose, as a pianist, I say, this woman can sing. I can do more with her than I can do with some of these other singers who can't quite hear the pitch or don't have quite the musical background. So let's say we test the singer a little bit, because I know her a little bit. Now, that means all of the things that I do with any instrumentalist, I can pull out at my disposal. Fourth chords, all these upper and lower neighbors of things that sound like mistakes, you know, that you can make sound good. Using open chords, using tight chords, you know, real compressed. And let's see what we get. Little different intro, basically the same chords, okay?
Never treats me sweet and gentle the way he should. Got it bad, and that ain't good. No.
In this private lesson, we're going to talk about a lot of different aspects of playing the drum set, different styles of playing the drum set. For instance, different types of rock, different types of Latin, playing different styles in swing, playing with brushes, double bass, playing a drum solo, for instance, an open drum solo without music, and how to play over a vamp with music or tape. And we'll talk about the most important aspect, I feel, about playing drums, is just keeping good time and playing with a real good groove and a lot of conviction.